Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Weatherly from Public Sector Personnel Consultants. Our firm was selected to assist the city with a classification and compensation study. We wanted to take this opportunity to introduce everybody to the study and highlight your opportunities to participate. The study overall will take about 4 to 6 months. You'll have about a month to work on a job questionnaire to ensure that you have had a chance to review your job description. So I do have screenshots of a questionnaire. I wanted to provide an overview just kind of through the slides of kind of what to expect, what not to expect. Hopefully, answer some of the questions that you might have and then kind of get us kicked off from there. As our name suggests, this is all that we do. Public Sector Personnel Consultants conducts classification and compensation studies for cities, for counties, for school districts, special districts, throughout the United States. We probably do maybe 50 studies a year. We've had a chance to work with almost 100 different Texas employers, just over 400 cities throughout the United States. All that qualifies us to do is ask good questions, I believe, including what factors influence your city's ability to recruit and to retain staff. Where else can you go do your job? Who is the city competing with for your time, for your skills? So we'll work on kind of defining the project phases to include answering some of those questions that I just posed. The study is something that the city wants to do for you, not to you. Very important distinction there. Pretty common for most cities to undertake a study. I would say maybe every 4 to 6 years. On the outside, every 7 to 10 years. Not sure how long it's been since your city has done a study, but it generally is utilized to inform budgeting. It is utilized to answer a couple of questions around your ability to recruit and to retain staff. This is not a process that everybody should expect a pay raise. That is what regular budgeting is for. This does not replace regular budgeting or anything that perhaps you guys utilize to administer salary adjustments. It is your job that we're studying, not the individual. We will not be selecting individual salaries as a result of the review. I don't believe that we know any of you. We don't know any of the city employees. We'll be working fairly independently from city administration to review job descriptions with your input and then conduct a salary survey. The two major phases really begin with that classification review. There are about 50 or so different job titles that currently appear either on a job description or in your pay plan documents. Question number one, what jobs do we have? How are tasks assigned? Is your job description an accurate reflection of your duties and your responsibilities? If not, do we need to create a new job title or a new job description here and there to ensure that we have adequately documented the work that you perform while you're at work? We will have a questionnaire that will go out by email, probably with an attachment to the video link that you received. It is going to run about 4 pages, maybe 5 pages. It will take an hour or two to work on the questionnaire. I promise that you already know the answers to all of the questions, and it is not a writing contest. You are more than welcome to work on them as a group. So if there are 5 of you that share job duties and you want to work on one group questionnaire, that's fantastic. We just want everybody to have an opportunity to either review your current job description or complete a questionnaire for us to ensure, as I mentioned, that when we do the salary survey, we're looking for job matches based on your actual job duties, not just based on your job title. The questionnaires, we want you to work on them on city time. Those will come out, like I said, with the video, and you'll have about a month, just under a month to work on them. It's a busy kind of time of year, but we wanted to try and get this started in anticipation of planning for the next budget year. The salary survey is where things get a little bit more interesting. I mentioned a couple of comments, where do we get employees from? Where do we lose employees to? Who has jobs like ours? Some sensitivities here. I believe you have some utility positions that are a little bit unique. Maybe not every municipality is in the electrical business or in the water or wastewater business or whatever else you might have. We need to be pretty intentional about identifying other comparator and competitor organizations. These could be cities around you. These could be other public employers, private employers, depending on the job that we're talking about. We will collect their pay plans. their organization charts, their job descriptions, and we will build basically a custom survey database in an effort to answer two questions. The first is, how are we doing compared to those that we're competing with? Where are we in the market? The follow-up is, where do we want to be, or where do we need to be in order to achieve the delivery of municipal services, in order to recruit and retain high quality staff? That becomes more of a philosophical question, and one that can require some facilitation with council and their designees around a pay strategy or a pay philosophy to say, hey, if we've fallen below market average, how do we get caught back up? We'll be able to assist, I think, with that conversation. Most public agencies anyway, yours included, have a formal pay range for every job. The first question and answer that we like to look at is, all right, is the pay range appropriate for each of the jobs that we study? And if not, if we increase the pay range, what does that mean for you as an employee? Can you move right along with the pay range? Are you where you should be in the pay range? And then from there, there's really kind of some options that we'll be able to present to your council and maybe to your budget folks around any change that might need to occur. Not uncommon across 50 jobs that we are competitive for some jobs and we've fallen behind for others. So a nice goal is to be consistent, whether it's, hey, let's get all of our jobs to be within 5% of market, or all of our jobs to be within 10% of market. So we define the market, and then we define a pay strategy and try to match those two things up to the best of our fiscal ability. All of our findings and recommendations become presented to council for their consideration, but certainly we'll take a little bit of direction from your city leadership in terms of how to engage in that conversation when we do have our study findings and recommendations. I do have screenshots of the position analysis questionnaire. I'll move fairly quickly, but I wanted to kind of create an opportunity for you to see what it is that we're looking for on the questionnaire, kind of page by page. I mentioned a couple of dates, and these dates could move around a little bit, but roughly early January, we want everybody to have filled out a questionnaire, either individually or as part of a group. Nobody will change what you put on your questionnaire, but we will ask department heads or designated managers to sign off on those questionnaires to ensure that you didn't forget something. And you'll see what I mean as we kind of get into the questionnaire a little bit. The top of page 1 of the questionnaire is housekeeping, your name, your job title. If there is a way that we can get in touch with you, if you have a work phone number or a work email address, just in case we have some follow-up questions. And then, who your supervisor or department head is, so that we can find you on an organization chart. The bottom of page 1 of the questionnaire really becomes the top of page 1 of a job description, a purpose statement, a summary statement. We're defining the overall role that the job plays that enables your department to provide services. So think at a very high level for a moment. If someone were to ask you what you do for a living, what do you tell them? It's the elevator speech. In this case, might be 3 to 5 sentences that describe who your customers are, what types of high-level services you're providing. Maybe you are kind of front of house, directly interacting with residents, customers, citizens. Maybe you're behind the scenes supporting those that do. In organizations of all sizes, it is not uncommon, particularly in the public sector, for employees to wear multiple hats. What I mean by that is you might be performing 2 very recognizable jobs, not so much simultaneously, but perhaps half of your time is spent doing one job and half of your time is spent doing a slightly different job. We want to recognize that, and we want to be sensitive to your actual job duties. You don't have to fill out 2 questionnaires, but if you want to draw a line down the questionnaire and tell us about job number 1, and then tell us about job number 2. Some goofy examples that I've seen in the past. I might be a heavy equipment operator part of the time, but I'm also a mechanic or a welder part of the time. So I might be out in the field performing project work around either work areas, construction sites, but then I might also be back in a machine shop or in a garage performing repairs or doing some welding work on the equipment that I just stepped off of. Another example might be half of my time I'm a payroll clerk, but half of the time I'm doing some IT help desk support. Those are 2 different jobs. We might need to compare your job to more than one job out in the market. So if you think that might be you, certainly talk to your supervisor or ask human resources. Not uncommon at all, but we want to be cautious and we want to make sure that we recognize the different job duties that are assigned. Page 2 will be your least favorite page. Page 2 is pretty blank. We're not suggesting you only do 8 things. If you want to tell us about 28 things or 6 things or 16 things, you completely decide on this page what to tell us. What we're looking for is an accounting of all of your job duties. If there are tasks that you perform every day, I would write those down. If there are tasks that are important, maybe you don't perform them every day, but they do come up once a week, once a month, or are super critical that you get done for compliance or reporting or something, I would write those down. Just label anytime you bounce around to say daily, here's some tasks, weekly or monthly, or occasionally, here are some additional tasks. 2 or 3 sentences for each task that you perform. This becomes the body of your job description. So if you want to talk to human resources and get a copy of your current job description, feel free to do so, but don't feel the need to copy and paste because we will have all of those. If you want to say see attached and you want to mark up your current job description, or if you want to take that and mark off tasks that are no longer being performed on your job description, but you use this document to add 3 or 4 or 5 things that aren't on the job description, kind of a perfect way where I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by the blank part of this page, but it helps us understand the job duties and responsibilities that are being assigned. The top of page 3, if we've successfully written down job duties, what do you have to know and what do you have to be good at in order to perform those job duties? Do you have to have customer service skills, the ability or the skill to meet deadlines, resolve customer complaints? Do you have to have knowledge of specialized accounting software, knowledge of specialized pieces of equipment, or how to set up a safe kind of traffic diversion around a work site? Are there information sources that you reference, like codes, ordinances, owner manuals, procedure manuals? So knowledge, skills, and sources of information, that'll go on the top of page 3. On the bottom of page 3, we're looking for your opinion. What did you have when you applied for this job in the way of education and experience? Has anything changed? What would you suggest to be the minimum qualifications for your job description? So when you're promoted and we ask you to participate like in a review panel or an interview process, what do we look for on somebody's resume or job application? Maybe your job requires a high school diploma, a couple of years of customer service experience. Maybe it requires a 2-year or 4-year degree in engineering or in accounting or in library science or something like that. List that out for us there. We're looking for your opinion. On the top of page 4, are there any licenses or certifications that you must hold? Do you have to have those when you apply for the job? Can you get those after you've been on the job for a while? Do you get any cool toys to play with? So the middle of page 4, are we operating any heavy equipment? Are we using any survey equipment, hand tools, mechanical equipment? And then the bottom of the page for compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Does your job require that you stand, lift, carry, bend, climb, drive, anything like that? List out any physical requirements that are expected of you in the course of performing your job duties. The top of page 5 is also pretty straightforward. Do you work outdoors? Do you work around hazardous chemicals, infectious disease, standing water, dangerous animals, hostile or combative individuals? Give us an idea of any workplace exposures that you might have to either potential for physical harm or what your work environment looks like. The bottom of page 5, we switch gears a little bit. When you come to work every day, how do you know what to work on? Is there somebody giving you step-by-step work instructions? Are there occasions when instructions are not provided? Do you get to decide what you're working on from day to day, or does somebody else hand you that? Maybe you work out in the field and your supervisor or your work lead or your manager works back in an office. At what point do you come together and visit about your job, about the tasks that you've completed? Is there a natural touch point there for your work to be reviewed? So just a sentence or two for that section. On the top of page 6, are you making significant decisions? Are you able to buy things? Are you able to make decisions that might have an impact or a liability to the city, such as public safety liability or life and death decisions out in the field? What comes up that your supervisor or manager wants to be involved in versus what do they expect you to resolve or handle on your own? If you do oversee the work of contractors or vendors so that you're approving that their work gets paid for, tell us about that. Those are some of the kind of decisions that might fit pretty well in this section as well. The bottom of page 6, who do you come into contact with? Are you interacting with other city departments, divisions, staff to fill out a staff report or do some budget tracking? How about outside of city government? Are you interacting with customers, with residents, with vendors, with law enforcement agencies, with the county, with the state? So inside and outside the city, who are you coming into contact with? If you've made it this far, and particularly if you fill this out in pen and pencil, make sure you sign and date and keep a copy of this questionnaire. If you choose to fill it out on a computer, it is a Word document. You can scroll through, it'll give you a little bit more space. Save it to your desktop because it does have to go to your supervisor, to human resources, then to us. So please keep a copy of your work. If you fill out a group questionnaire and you want to get together and have one person write it up and have everybody sign off on it so that we know you are all comfortable being classified to the same job title and to the same pay grade, you can put everybody's signature on there or attach an additional signature page. If you have any responsibility for others, there is one supplemental page. If it doesn't apply, you can leave this page blank. But what we're looking for here is if you are responsible for other employees, vendors, contractors, volunteers, tell us about who and how many people you are responsible for, and then what your responsibilities are for those folks. Maybe you don't have the final say, but you get pretty significant input when it comes to performance review, approving time off, training new hires, that kind of thing. So tell us about that. The last page will be for managers or department heads to sign off. These are really long documents. However, there could be some tasks that we forgot to write down. Really what we're trying to avoid is any errors of omission. So we're not trying to change anything that you tell us on the questionnaire, but we are kind of putting another set of eyes on it that might be knowledgeable about, big picture. Hey, this job is also responsible for this type of reporting when we do the budget, or there's some occasional job duties that are very critical. We want to make sure that your job gets credit for those. Okay, that's the questionnaire. Just a couple, I think, of reminders. Early January, try to get a questionnaire turned in to your supervisor, either individually or as part of a group. Again, feel free to work on it, with coworkers and articulate your job duties and responsibilities, together. An hour or two, try not to take more than 2 hours. But it's very important that we hear from everybody. We don't always get the opportunity to review job descriptions. Sometimes our phone rings and it's, hey, go do a survey. Here's all of our job descriptions. And that's all well and good until somebody says, wait, that's not what I do, or my job description is 7 years old or 17 years old. So this is a great opportunity, I think, to make sure that there's mutual understanding in job duties and responsibilities, and that we have the content that we need to hopefully go do a really, really good compensation survey. This overall hopefully will take more like 4 months, but it could take 4 to 6 months. We'll challenge you to kind of get going on the questionnaire these next several weeks, and then that'll give us the content that we need to start making job matching. With that, that is all that I have. I really appreciate viewing the video. I also, more importantly, appreciate you taking the time to review your job description to make sure that we have accurate information. Everybody be safe. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see everybody in person at some point. I'll do my best here to kind of stop our recording, and that will be kind of the end of our presentation. Thanks again.